Okay, today we're talking about opposition. Opposition in dog training, it can happen. We don't see it too terribly often, but I want you to know what to look for and how to train not around it but through it. And there are a couple of breeds we do see it with. It's more prevalent with Huskies, with some herding breeds, with some Australian Shepherds. But it's not so much about the breed as it is what the owners have used to train their dogs prior to us getting involved. And usually the dogs that have been trained on a harness, it's because they pull, right? So the owner takes the flat name tag collar off, puts a harness on them, and that's to alleviate the pressure on the neck. But harnesses create pulling. It doesn't matter if it's a front pull, a rear pull, a side pull, upside down pull, harnesses pull. That's what they're for. So when you first attach a prong collar to a dog, and you can introduce it slowly, even as we do it, we use 12 to 18 inches. We take just a half a step backwards, and the dog should follow the leash and come to us to make it loose. When it becomes loose, that's the reinforcement. And we want to associate ourselves with a loose leash and a comfortable collar associated with it. So dogs have been on a harness. They have simply just been allowed to do whatever they wanted to do and pull their owners wherever they wanted for weeks, months, years maybe, right? So you get opposition where the dog says, I don't like these new rules. I'm going to do it my way. I've always done it my way. And of course the owners don't like it. That's why they call us for help. But what you're going to see is you may see the dog just flops down the ground and rolls around. Usually you'll see a dog that will resist the direction of the leash, and they actually will back away from the person holding the leash, and they will pull backing up for them, but it makes the prong collar more uncomfortable. So that's the opposite direction that we want, right? The trick is not to adapt to it. The dog that's very vocal about opposing and saying, I don't want to do these rules. This is not something that is comfortable for me, but we have to show them what direction we want them to go so that the leash can be comfortable. So slow introduction. You can lure with food. If it's the owner that's introducing it, then sometimes just calling the dog can get him to step towards leash pressure and not away from it, and moving towards the owner then makes it more comfortable. But you'll see some biting of the leash. You'll see redirection onto the owner, because if the owner is holding the leash very close to them when they oppose, then biting the owner makes the owner react in a certain way to loosen the leash or even drop the leash, and the dog wins, right? So adaptation to opposition is reinforcement. So we have some clips from over the years. Some of you have seen these already, but to highlight specifically the opposition side of it and to look for what the owners may be doing that accidentally reinforces that opposition. And now that we've discussed it, you'll know that changing your body position when you ask your dog to sit and it sits 3 feet away from you, and then moving so that you're heeling with your dog instead of your dog heeling with you. Of course, that's adaptation. Allowing a loose leash when the dog bites the leash or even wants to go left when you want to go right. Giving into that leash pressure rather than being consistent and not pulling harder, but not relieving the pressure until you get the direction change that you want. That's important too. So look over the clips, you'll see them. We don't see a lot of opposition in the last few years. We just have a certain way that we address it and introduce it very, very slowly and fairly, right? Least amount of distractions. The dog rushes into leash pressure. It runs on a 6-foot leash plus the length of your arm. There's a lot of punishment because they've built up speed, and it is a very, very abrupt consequence from the prong collar. It's just not fair. Started off slowly, and it really can be fair to your dog to ask them to move 6 inches, 12 inches, and then begin healing. And if they are at the end of the leash and you give a slight pull to it, they turn around towards you, but you have food waiting, so they're less likely to oppose if there's something interesting in the direction you want them to travel. And it has to be more interesting than the reason they're pulling to begin with, right? All right, so here's clips. That's all right.
You're trying to redirect on them.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Lauren, just help her let everybody know.
just keep walking, walk. No.
Use your helper hand.
Okay.
All right. No food. We don't throw tantrums to get food. Okay? That's a little opposition to the collar. Walk about 10 feet, make another turn. Yeah, don't stop. Just turn and go. He's trying to resist it.
Yeah.
And you're letting him win that. Keep going.
Go. Nope. This way.
Good. Now turn again.
There you go.
Now here she's going to smell off. This is where all the other dogs go to the bathroom.
Okay, we can go a different way. So 8 days, how many walks you think? I know you mentioned that she had some sickness, but 8 days, what's your average amount of walks per day?
One a
The
day.
8 days since we started, I mean.
Every day.
Okay.
Sometimes twice.
Okay, listen. When she goes into leash pressure, we call it, that prong collar does this.
Right.
Okay? You saw it's going to stop, and by design, they will never strangle. Okay? Now there's consequence for retreating, there's consequence for forging ahead.
Right.
We'll get to the barking issue.
Right.
But you can give consequence, you can give a flick of the wrist for that also. All right? I don't think she'll take food from me. She may take food from you, but she's been manipulating you forever.
Oh, yeah.
So the new reinforcement is when this is loose.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Okay, so when
The
she's just
consequence
sitting
or
there
the-
like that, that's
Yeah, but she also is, we're reinforcing the behavior because we're not, the leash and the collar aren't taut,
okay.
right? And clenching together.
right.
Okay, so when the collar is clenched like that, it's punishment.
Right.
Scientifically, it's punishment.
Right.
We're not kicking or hitting, but I don't want her to forge ahead. I don't want her to retreat. The barking thing, we're going to change direction instead. So if somebody walking their dog goes across the street, you know she's going to go that direction. I'm going to go that direction, and I want her to follow me. And the more that she forges ahead, the more consequence there is. Okay? Her intensity as she runs and pursues, I probably will just stand still. It's not about yanking it really hard, because her intensity was already matched just like that when she got to the end of the leash. On the harness, she's going to pull, 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 pull. That's what's going to happen. That's good. I whistled. I barely moved the leash, and she came right along, okay? Okay? Now she's to you, and I'm not going to pull, okay? Good girl. That's a good girl. That's a good girl.
You saw it, though, didn't
Okay, watch her. Good girl. Good girl. That's what we want. All right? She's barking and snarling and doing all that nonsense. What I don't want is, and she may have a little freak out, what I don't want is you to be straddling and over top. Okay? Because if she starts to oppose the leash and the collar, she will bite you. Okay? It's not making her more aggressive. She's looking for a means to make you stop. And if you adapt, that's what's going to happen. If you give her the length of the leash, what is she going to do? Bite the leash? Maybe. But especially when we start remote collar, you don't want association to punishment. Punishment is to discourage behavior. That's it. Okay? There we go. Did you hear the chain? Just barely, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's walk a little bit. Let's see if she'll let me walk her. When you release the leash pressure, if you see I barely have this, right? But I also am not giving her reinforcement until I get change, until I get that forward motion. Okay? Right now I want forward motion because she's lagging behind, right?
Right.